Hello everybody, my partner and I, we are going to present to you our research proposal which is entitled Implementing a Virtual Learning Tool to Develop Vocabulary and Writing Production on EFL Learners at University of Pamplona. This presentation is structured as follows. Firstly, the research questions, the research objectives, research approach, design, settings, population, sample, data collection instruments, timeline, and finally references. Alright, so let's start with the research questions that you can see here. And then the research objectives. Well, this research proposal adopts a mixed method as the researchers are going to gather data and analyze it by using both qualitative and quantitative approaches with view to better understanding the issue. With regard to this approach, researchers will apply questionnaires to uncover EFL learners' opinions when through close-ended questions collect data related to the vocabulary learning strategies. Moreover, researchers will assess learners and compare the results by using statistical methods. Mills 2011 argued that an action research is a systematic procedure done by teachers to gather information about, to improve the particular settings operate, their teaching, and their students' learning. Based on that, this practical action research aims at identifying problems that hinder learners' performances and improving these practices by implementing a novel virtual learning tool to foster EFL learners' lexicon. Similarly, this study will be guided by the action research model suggested by Mills 2011, which comprises 4 moments: area of focus identification when defining the setting and learner's weakness, data collection by using the inquiry tools, interpret the data, and finally develop a plan of action.
Good morning, teacher. I hope everything is going very well. Today, following up on what my partner Joan said about our research, I'll tell you a little bit about the settings of our study. Okay, so our research project will be carried out at the University of Pamplona, which was founded by Jose Rafael Faria Bermudez and became a public institution in 1970. Its main campus is located in Pamplona, Norte, Santander, and precisely in the Ramon Gonzalez building is located our foreign language program, where we have laboratories with audiovisual support. This has other locations or places in Cucuta and other parts of the country, right? In Pamplona, there are 4 sites or places where the classes of all the faculties of the university are carried out, which are around 7, and from there 44 programs are derived. And these sites are La Casona, Colegio Virgen del Rosario, Colegio Luis Carlos Galán, y el Club de Comercio. Okay. Now, considering to our population, we will take into account foreign languages students in their 2nd semester, or those who have A2 level of English, since we are looking for students who have not have extensive knowledge to see the impact or the influence that our vocabulary tool produces in comparison to other higher levels. Okay. Now, considering that there are a large number of foreign languages students, we will take into account 12 participants, which will be divided into groups, okay? Into groups of 6 each, by means of the consecutive sampling, which is a non-probabilistic sampling, and each participant is studied to be a key member in a given time period. Okay?
Data collection instruments. Data collection is an extremely important element to consider since it allows researchers to use instruments to gather that relevant information from participants that will help them to validate their research. Alright, so we are going to use the following instruments. Firstly, we have web-based surveys or questionnaires, class observation, pre-test and post-test, virtual learning tool, and finally free writing. Creswell 2002 stated that web-based questionnaire is a common survey instrument to gather data that is available on the computer by taking into account diverse software programs for designing, gathering, and analyzing the collected data. Researchers will use questionnaires adapted from Oxford's taxonomy, which comprise close-ended questions to identify EFL learners' vocabulary, learning strategies, preferences, and how they use these strategies when learning new words. These VLS will be structured in 6 categories: metacognitive, cognitive, memory, affective, social, and compensatory strategies. Researchers will design 30 strategies answer options by splitting out in 5 answer options in each category to gather the data and identify how learners implement each of them. Here you are an example how it will be expected. Class observation. Researchers will get involved into the settings in order to determine the EFL learners' writing challenges related to their lack of vocabulary. Similarly, researchers will analyze the way in which participants address the study when the virtual learning tool is being applied. Pre-test and post-test. This research proposal adopted a quasi-experimental design to reach to the impact this virtual learning tool has. This design aims at examining whether there is a causal relationship between independent and dependent variables. This independent variable is the variable of influence, and the dependent variable is that one that is being influenced. Participants will be split out into 2 major groups: control and experimental group. The control group will be taught vocabulary under the traditional vocabulary teaching method. Meanwhile, the experimental group will be required to use the virtual learning tool to foster the lexicon through flashcards. In such a manner, both groups will undertake a pre-test to identify learners' prior knowledge. Afterwards, or when researchers have taught vocabulary, participants will do a post-test in order to measure the reach of the virtual learning tool by comparing mean scores obtained from both groups. As this research proposal will be conducted under the framework of a virtual learning tool, researchers have previously designed this virtual learning tool. Researchers use different programming languages to reach to the core platform operation, such as PHP language, that allowed researchers to manage dynamic content, in this case flashcards, when storing them into databases, and session tracking, since there are 2 access roles. The first one is participants and the second one research for researchers. It is also important to mention that researchers will retrieve the vocabulary from cutting-edge book, since this is the book that Foreign Languages program uses for teaching English.
Finally, we have our schedule. The schedule for data collecting, and we have to schedule the activities that will be done for the data collection for during the next month or years. And here you can see the schedule is to start with the pilot testing, right? Then we will organize each piece of data. Okay, then we will apply our instruments and our tool, and then collect data on the variations that are observed. Okay, but note that that any changes made during the time period will be reported here. Okay. Right. Okay. So that will be all. Thank you so much, teacher, for your attention, obviously, and you will see our reference here. Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Now, here you are the references. Here you are the references where we retrieved the whole information. Thank you so much and goodbye.